Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of EYVE Prop Shop. Today we're going to be making a prop from a video game. Now you probably already heard of this video game, but we're going to be making a gun called the fusil terrible from Fallout 4. Here it is. Now this took me a while to make just because school interfered, so I don't know the exact time it took to build it, but I do know the price, and it was around $25. And that was mostly because of the wood and the wooden dowels. The other stuff was just made out of cardboard and miscellaneous objects. Now my favorite part about this gun is the weathering. I find it looks very apocalyptic. But you still have to be a little careful because it is a little bit fragile. Some pieces like the trigger or the bolt can easily break off. That's if you throw it around. But if you're just running around with it, having fun, or on display, it won't break. Now before building, I would recommend watching the video because there are some mistakes I make. And if you're not building, that's completely alright. You can just watch for inspiration or just for fun. So let's get started. You're going to need a piece of wood at least 2 centimeters thick. First, cut out a template of how big you think you need the stock to be. I then traced 2 out on a piece of wood. This is what it should look like. I then cut them out with a hacksaw. I then realized I only need 1. I then sanded it to make it comfortable in your hand. This is what it should look like. When spray painting, always use gloves and a mask. I then did 2 light coats on each side. Make sure to wait 15 minutes in between each coat. In the end, it looked like this. Then measure out how big you want the barrel to be. Make sure to wear gloves when sawing. Then sand the top of it so it's not rough. With a pencil, I then did a mark of where the stock will go into the barrel. I then cut it out. With the thinner dowel, I put it up to the front of the stock and made a mark at the end of the thicker barrel. It should look like that. Then cut the dowel to the right size. I then glued on both dowels to the stock, making sure to at least leave half an inch in between each one. I then eyeballed the width and the length of the piece you see on screen. It was 10 by 5 centimeters. I then traced out a rectangle with those dimensions. I then made these lines to replicate what it looks like. I then made a long oval where the bolt should be. I then cut it out. Should look like that. So I'm going to cut out 2 pieces like this, the template that we made, but out of a stronger cardboard. And then I'm going to stack maybe some foam here so it's all equal out and you can easily put it on, glue it on. Then I'm going to attach more details around it, and finally we'll attach the clip. Don't put the strip of EVA foam up to the line because there's a little gap on the piece. Oh yeah, and by the way, you will need 4 of those pieces, 3 with no oval and 1 with 1. We will glue 2 on each side. It should look like this. I then cut out pieces to fill in the gaps. I then took a plastic marble and a little cylinder to make the bolt. I made a mistake of gluing it on early, so I would wait before we spray painted to glue it on. For the pump, I used a piece of styrofoam. I'm not quite sure what this foam is called, but you can really use any foam you want. I just had this lying around and it was the right shape, so why not use it? I then traced a smaller dowel on the top of the styrofoam. Remember to cut off a little bit of excess styrofoam. It should be around like this. For the clip, I traced out where it should be. I then took a Pringles can and traced that length onto it. I then cut it out. I then cut off an excess centimeter. I then formed that shape onto the gun. I then traced out the circle and made a place where the gun will fit in. Cut out 2 of those shapes. I then glued them onto the Pringles can. And glued the clip on the gun. It should look like this. I then made a hole in a piece of foam so we could slide down the barrel. This part is really important. We're going to be wrapping the foam in tape. Make sure you have an extra piece of the dowel so it keeps the shape. It doesn't really have to look perfect because we're going to be putting cardboard over it. It's just in case if somehow spray paint gets in, because you know how some foams react to spray paint. I then glued cardboard around it, making sure to leave a hole for a smaller dowel. Here's what it looks like on the gun, and this is what it should look like. I then took some cardboard the same length as the pump. I then measured the bottom and both sides of the pump, but not the top. I folded the cardboard at each measurement, like this. I then cut off the sides, like this. I then made thin lines down the cardboard, each one 1 centimeter apart. I then made curved lines at the bottom and top of the thin lines. I then cut them out with an X-Acto knife. This is what it should look like. I then glued this onto the pump. It looked like this. This is what it looks like on the gun. With the pump done, I then spray painted it. Be careful not to get the spray paint into the hole because that's not covered with tape. It could destroy the foam and ruin the whole pump. I then took a plastic cover and cut off the top. This is going to be put on the back of the clip, like this. I then made 2 shapes like this. They're going to go right here. I then glued them on each side. I then took cardboard and filled in the gaps like this. I then cut out a rectangular shape made out of cardboard. And then I'm going to glue it on the gun here. This piece should be equal with the bottom of the pump, like this. For the screws, we're going to be using googly eyes. The thing with googly eyes is that the little pupil inside moves around and makes sounds. So we're going to have to eliminate the pupils from shaking around inside. So at first I was going to take an X-Acto knife and cut out the white part, but I find just piercing a hole inside, like a small one, and then taking a pen and making that hole bigger, I would just have to put glue in it. It should be like this size. And I did that for all 8 of them. Put glue in it, all you have to do is put the tip of the glue gun inside it and squeeze a little amount of glue. When they dry, leave them upside down so the glue does not leak out. When you glue them onto the gun, make sure you have a reference photo so you know where the screws are. With the googly eyes on, it may look a little weird, but when you spray paint it, it'll look better. I then took a thin piece of cardboard the same width and length of the clip. It should be able to wrap around the clip. I then made 2 lines off center, 3.5 centimeters apart. Between the lines, I made these shapes, each 1 centimeter thick and 1 centimeter apart. I then cut them out with an X-Acto knife. This is what it should look like. I then glued it on. Next, I'm going to take a strip of cardboard which is able to wrap around the clip. Out of that strip, I'm going to make a 1 centimeter strip and a 1/2 centimeter strip, like this. Then I'm going to glue these strips onto the clip. The 1 centimeter strip facing the front of the gun and a 1/2 centimeter strip facing the back of the gun. This is just going to add dimension to the clip. Then I made this shape out of cardboard. This is going to go on the front of the gun. It should be leveled with the top of the gun and the bottom of the pump. I then made this strip of thin cardboard. It should be able to wrap around the piece. I then glued the strip and the piece together. It should look like this. You can use a bottle cap for the end of the barrel, but I find a little cylinder inside the Scotch tape roll works best. Make sure it's centered and straight. I then made marks on the barrel. They should be 1 centimeter apart and 1/2 centimeter thick. For the trigger guard, I used 3D glasses. I sawed off the bottom of the rim. It should go like this on the gun. With one of the temple glasses, I made the trigger. It should look like this. I then made a piece like this, and I'm going to glue it at the end of the barrel here. On top of that piece, I made 2 cardboard cylinders for the aimer. I then took 2 googly eyes with the same technique I showed earlier and glued them here. Remember to use gloves when drilling. I then made holes on the mark we made on the barrel, around 1/4 centimeter deep. I then attached this aimer type piece of cardboard. Next, I masked off the stock. Remember to remove the pump. Remember to wear a safety mask while spray painting. Wait 20 minutes in between each coat. I then took off the tape and the paper. This is what it looked like. Next, I sprayed black spray paint and started tapping a plastic bag onto it. This makes the weathered and worn look. And I also did a little bit of brown for dirt and rust. We want this to look like it's been in the apocalypse. For more weathering, I decided to dry brush silver onto the gun. This will look like the paint scratched off and there's metal underneath. There's this metal piece on the back of the stock, so I'll be using EVA foam. I measured out the width and the length of the back of the stock. It should go like this. Now I'm going to spray paint and weather the foam and a little tape holder. The tape holder is going to go on the front of the pump and the foam is going to go on the back of the stock. When I put on the front piece, there's a little gap in between it and a small dowel. With a little plastic cap, this is going to even it out. I then spray paint and weather the cap. I then glued on the cap and the front piece. This is what it looked like. I then weathered the wood with dark and light brown. This is what it should look like. On the clip, I made circles and weathered them. When I put the black on, it looked like holes. I then did a little touch-ups where the spray paint wasn't able to get to the gun. And finally, get ready to fight.